I remember the first story I wrote, like the first completed story I wrote. I was in the second grade, and we were tasked with, writing a page or two. I came back with 15 something pages, little tiny writing. Um, I had a plot. It was this action adventure story incorporating all the kids that were in my class. There was danger. Everybody was like a trained operative. I had borrowed from like every movie I'd ever seen on TV at that point, the edited versions, because my parents probably wouldn't let me watch anything too naughty back then. So it was hackneyed junk. I distinctly remember having a line in it from Casablanca, because I think some cartoon used a line from Casablanca. I didn't know I was quoting Casablanca at the time. My teacher, was talking to my mom or my dad or somebody and saying like, he's like nuts. And I'm not saying this because I was precocious. I'm saying it because I just really wanted to make them laugh, and everybody was a different character in the story. And anyway, that's how I remember it. Ever since then, I've always wanted to do creative things and, foist my imaginings upon the universe. So the poet's brain, and I don't, by poet, let's just throw in painter, musician, singer, writer, whatever. Let's just call him a poet, is like a grand sweeping thing. And the reason I do that is because I want to talk about G.K. Chesterton, a book called Orthodoxy. Rereading this and The Everlasting Man, the logic and wit the man has is incredible. He was born in like 1870s, died in 1930s. I think he was, in that cadre of awesome literary figures like C.S. Lewis and Tolkien and all these guys. I think Lewis drew a lot of inspiration from him, but don't quote me on that because I'm not real positive. Anyways, that's why I'm wearing English soccer garb today, because GK is an English dude. I talk about a lot of English dudes. All right, I'm going to read a couple excerpts from GK Homedog. This is talking about the artistic life, the poet's brain and mind, and how that works. And this doesn't just apply to people that are artists. It depends on how we want to view the world and how we want to take the journey in our brains and in our souls. Quote, "The thing I propose to take as common ground between myself and any average reader is this desirability of an active and imaginative life, picturesque and full of poetical curiosity." I'll reread that. Quote, "The thing I propose to take as common ground between myself and any average reader is this desirability of an active and imaginative life, picturesque and full of a poetical curiosity." Okay, unquote. That is a pretty fair statement and something that's desirable from almost anybody on the planet Earth. He says, I want an active and an imaginative life, picturesque and full of poetical curiosity. And when he says poetical curiosity, he's not talking about you go out and you're so curious you got to write a poem, and it's got to have this amount of stanzas and this has to rhyme with that. Quote, "We need this life of practical romance, the combination of something that is strange with something that is secure. We need so to view the world as to combine an idea of wonder and an idea of welcome. We need to be happy in this wonderland without once being merely comfortable. It is this achievement of my creed that I shall chiefly pursue in these pages," unquote. Okay, that's beautiful. I love the idea. I just love the phrase practical romance. I don't know if he borrowed it or came up with it. Practical romance. Let's say a person who has a romantic heart is the one who isn't downtrodden and his eyes aren't cast down by life. He's looking around the corner, and he's got the question of who knows what could be always on his mind and on the tip of his tongue and on the insides of his guts, And he's also practical. It's just practical romance. So practical and romance at the same time. So we need that idea of wonder. I love it. It's good writing too. We need so to view the world as to combine an idea of wonder and an idea of welcome. I love that. So you can't just go around looking at everything and being confused. I mean, wonder, unadulterated wonder, is no good. It doesn't help you get through life, and it basically you're just a confused person walking through life, I think, at that point. But an idea of wonder and welcome. So you know who you are, you know where you are, but you don't know everything about who you are and what you are. That's me paraphrasing, and that's how I construe what Chesterton is saying here. We need to understand, but we don't need to understand everything, is what he's saying. And that's where the imagination comes in. I love this because one time I was talking to somebody and they said, why don't you just get your head out of the clouds? And I fully agreed with them that sometimes my head is too far in the clouds. I think it's a balancing act, and everything is, though. And I'm always trying to write some story or make up something that never happened, and write some song about maybe a girl that doesn't even exist, or a place I've never been to. Just get on with it and be normal. It sounds completely reasonable when you hear it, because here's what was happening. Trying so hard to make it in whatever, music or writing or whatever, that I wasn't being cool, man. I was getting all out of whack. Not a good person to be around. I was too inward. I was too focused on actually the logical part of art, which will kill you. So the guy had a point. When he was saying for me to be normal, according to Chesterton anyway. Let's see what he has to say. This is why ordinary people have a much more exciting time. Just look at these general statements. This is why ordinary people have a much more exciting time, while odd people are always complaining of the dullness of life. This is also why the new novels die so quickly and why the old fairy tales endure forever. The old fairy tale makes the hero a normal human boy. It is his adventures that are startling. They startle him because he's normal. But in the modern psychological novel, the hero is abnormal. The center is not central, hence the fiercest adventures fail to affect thematically, and the book is monotonous. You can make a story out of a hero among dragons, but not out of a dragon among dragons. Quote unquote. Oh no, I'm going to keep going. Quote, the fairy tale discusses what a sane man will do in a mad world. The fairy tale discusses what a sane man will do in a mad world. The sober, realistic novel of today discusses what an essential lunatic will do in an adult world. Unquote. I know the language is a little bit not politically correct, but the sentiment is smart and sharp, and it's a presentable argument. And I love that he says ordinary people have a better time. Odd people are always complaining about the dullness of life, and that's where I was getting so caught up in make-believe that the normal life seemed dull and weird, and I was getting things a little bit backwards, but I didn't have that practical romance balance. You need that. Quote, there is a notion adrift everywhere that imagination, especially mystical imagination, is dangerous to man's mental balance. Poets are commonly spoken of as psychologically unreliable, unquote. Remember, poets, we're throwing writers of all ilks, musicians, painters. We'll throw them in there. Quote, most of the very great poets have been not only sane, but extremely businesslike, unquote. And then let's pick it back up here. Quote, imagination does not breed insanity. Exactly what does breed insanity is reason. Ooh, throwing down the gauntlet. So what does breed insanity is reason. Poets do not go mad, but chess players do. Mathematicians go mad, and cashiers. But creative artists very seldom. I am not, as will be seen, in any sense attacking logic. Okay, so he's backpedaling it a little bit. It's hard to write and make all these sweeping statements without putting your whole leg in the water and then saying, no, I just dipped a toe in. Quote, I only say this, that this danger does lie in logic, not in imagination. Artistic paternity is as wholesome as physical paternity. Moreover, it is worthy of remark, and when a poet really was morbid, it was commonly because he had some weak spot of rationality on his brain. Unquote. Oh, we're getting to something. Okay, so artistic paternity is as wholesome as physical paternity. So he's saying that being the father of whatever your artistic creation is as wholesome and healthy and wonderful and it's as salubrious as having a kid. So I'm cool with that. But a part he loves to hear is that rationality. The poets that went crazy had a spot of rationality on their brain. I love that. A spot of rationality on their brain. Quote, Poe, for instance, really was morbid, not because he was poetical, but because he was especially analytical. All right, I'm going to do another thing on Edgar Allan Poe, one of my favorite writers. So I got a little beef with Chesterton on that. He's talking trash about my boy Poe. He did have an analytical mind. I mean, he wrote really, really structured verses, and they're awesome, though. I don't really see how that makes him especially any more analytical or logical in his imagination than any other poet or whatever. I think he had some other problems, and back in the day, it's hard to know. It's hard to know 150 years removed. But I love this. Oh gosh, I hate going back to more ocean stuff. The general fact is simple. Poetry is sane because it floats easily in an infinite sea. Reason seeks to cross the infinite sea and so make it finite. The poet only asks to get his head into the heavens. It is the logician who seeks to get the heavens into his head, and it is his head that splits. All right, so clearly this guy's taking a view, and I'm not saying I really necessarily agree with all of it, but for all you artists and all of the people that are just looking for an approach to life, striking that balance between knowing what you can understand and what you can't understand, and being okay with imagining things and wondering about things. Let's say I talk about love. If I understood everything about love, all the ups and downs, all the travails that it might entangle, all the things that I require in my mind and in my heart, all the things required of me for it to be reciprocated. If I understood all that in this analytical, way that we could put on a spreadsheet, that would make it really boring. I think this guy's got the measure of something here. He's a really brilliant writer, though, and the fact that he wrote fiction and nonfiction makes him an interesting figure to me. So check out some G.K. Chesterton and judge for yourself. I think you'll get something off of it. And hey, for all you poets out there, he'll make you feel good about yourself for a little while. Cheers.